Post the order.
Attention to order. The President of the United States has imposed special trust and confidence in your patriotism, valor, fidelity, and ability. In view of these qualities and your demonstrated potential for increased responsibility, you are, therefore, promoted in the United States Army Reserve in the grade of rank of Captain by order of the Secretary of the Army, signed Gerald T. Mayer, Chief VA Promotion.
I, Yippee Zhang, having been appointed a captain in the Army of the United States, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will and will faithfully discharge
the office upon which I'm about to enter.
the office
Upon which I'm about to enter.
the office upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. There's Zhang. Traditions first. These epaulets were worn by Captain Maza, now Major Maza, and he has literally been all over the world with them. And right now he's in Afghanistan. I'm very proud that I have the honor of wearing these epaulets, and that I hope I will do justice in them in my time as a captain. These First Lieutenant bars will go to Lieutenant Boyd, with the promise that you will give these to someone else. I'm usually not much of a speech giver, so I have to really rely on cards and practice over and over again. But I timed this one back at home. It's about 8 to 10 minutes, not too bad. Hello, friends in battle. Thank you all for coming. I've got a great story to tell you today. It is the greatest love story that I know. But to set it up, I have to tell you a bit of history, so please bear with me. So in the late 1960s and early 70s, the communists, they were in power in China. And communists back then, not so much anymore, but back then they were all about the idea of class struggle. The proletariat against the bourgeois, or in today's parlance, the 47% versus 1%. To save privileged urban youth from bourgeois tendencies, Chairman Mao created a policy called the 上山下乡运动. Translated, it means up to the mountains and down to the countryside. Man, doesn't that just sound like a sweet policy? It's like you're going on vacation, up to the mountains and down to the countryside. No, it basically means you city brats, you're getting spoiled. You're going to spend the next 5 or so years farming with the peasants. No joke. So, meet my dad here, Jian. His family lived in Shanghai, which is like the New York City of China. And he was basically the definition of privileged urban youth. So instead of spending his teens in the classroom, getting an education, he was forced to spend it on rural backwater farms. Now, these aren't the kind of farms you find in the heartlands of the U.S. No, working at these farms, they involved no machinery, back-breaking manual labor, and most unfortunately for my dad, prolonged periods of malnutrition. Due to years of this treatment, when the policy finally ended and he transferred back to Shanghai and became an electric plant worker, my dad developed chronic liver disease. he would spend an entire decade, all of his 20s, on a hospital bed. When he was my age now, 29, he only had a 5th grade education left. My mom, Leah, she was exempt from 上山下乡 because her brothers, my uncles, they were tagged or ready to go. My mom is a capable, vibrant, and confident woman whom her teachers recommended for the coveted quota to nursing school. Now, this isn't your standard college recommendation. Back then in China, your teachers and your superiors decided your career and your fate for life. People of my parents' generation, they were assigned to a job. It's called a danwei, or a unit, just like our military units here. And that unit, they took care of your food and money and housing and pretty much ran your life. In most cases, you stayed with a single danwei for your entire life. So at the time that my parents met, my mom was a nurse, and my dad was an electric plant laborer who was in the hospital 10 months out of the year. They were introduced, and they fell in love. My mom always said she was only attracted to my dad's brain. she saw his intelligence when no one else would recognize him. My mom's family, though, they were all against the marriage. Her siblings counseled her that if she married my dad, she would almost certainly be a widow by her 40s. But my mom had an iron will, and she said to them, I'd rather spend half a life with him than a full lifetime with someone else. And so, they got married, 1982. This isn't the end of this love story yet, it gets better. For you see, my dad, he also had an iron will. He had a dream. He was determined not to accept his fate as a laborer for the rest of his life. And he knew that the only path out was through education. So as he gradually began to recover from the liver disease, he dove into a self-directed study program. He got books, studied the crap out of them, and took equivalency test after equivalency test. First getting a high school equivalency, then a bachelor's equivalency, then taking the TOEFL, that's an English language test for non-native speakers. And finally, he earned admission to a graduate program here in the States. Can you imagine? You know that dude in college who never came to class, yet showed up at the final and aced it? That's my dad. Good eye, Mom. Quite a catch. It's an oft-told tale in the Zhang family that my parents arrived in America with nothing but 2 suitcases of bare necessities. That's not entirely true. You see, they arrived with 2 suitcases and $2,000 in debt. My mom didn't speak any English at the time. She had given up a nursing career, her friends, her family, her culture, in essence, her very identity, to come to the States and work as a Chinese restaurant waitress to support my dad when he went through grad school. Now you guys know why I like the York buffet so much. But my parents made it work because they were 2 kindred spirits in pursuit of the same dream. If anything, the challenge and the struggle, it made their marriage stronger. For the first couple of years, I remained back in Shanghai, and my grandparents took care of me because my parents didn't want me to know poverty as such a young kid. But in 1991, my family was a bit more established, and I came to America. And the first thing my parents did with their meager savings, saved from mowing other people's lawn, and picking out other people's weeds, and making other people's food, and cleaning other people's houses. You know what they did with those savings? They bought some tickets, and they took me to Disney World. So, why am I telling you this story? Why am I telling you this love story, this immigrant story, today at a military promotion ceremony? Well, at the heart of the story is a dream that transcends race, ethnicity, culture, religion, and color. And it's a dream for the freedom to pursue a better future. And that's what the U.S. Army is. We are a diverse organization comprised of members from every socioeconomic strata, of every race and color and background. and more. We are a vehicle for that dream. When I enlisted and went to basic training in 2006, I was a sophomore in college, and my battle buddy, with whom I went through thick and thin, did a lot of beat-your-face push-ups side by side. My battle buddy, he was fresh out of jail for attempted robbery. At basic, I heard Southern accents so thick as to be indecipherable for a privileged urban youth from Boston, such as myself. I was introduced to conservative viewpoints so right-leaning as to be nearly heretical if I uttered it on the campuses of the bluest state in the Union. I mixed and came out better for it. And everyone in my basic training platoon, everyone, we all had a dream of bettering ourselves. The Army values and the entire honored profession of arms. It is the embodiment of the American dream, open to all who are willing to work hard. And that dream, it is the single most potent tool in our cache in defense of our republic and our way of life. Much stronger and more enduring than any projection of land or sea or air power that we can muster through our superior technology and economic strength. That dream, it lured my mom and dad and me away from China. It turned a lifetime of our family's economic contribution as faithful taxpayers and consumers, intellectual contribution as software developers and nurses. Yes, my mom eventually got her nursing license a second time, this time in English. That dream, it turned all this from the coffers of the People's Republic of China to the GDP of the US of A. And it has even turned my family into willing ambassadors of democracy and freedom to our relatives still living in China. Tiny voices by ourselves, but if aggregated, causes the discourse of entire societies to turn from isolationist fear and suspicion to cross-cultural communication and understanding. Talk about winning hearts and minds. The power of the dream is such that it has accomplished all this without a single round being fired, a single drop of fuel burnt, or a single life or limb sacrificed on the battlefield. I am so proud to be in this organization, to wear the uniform, and to contribute my part to ensure the continuation of that dream. There is no endeavor more worthwhile.
Cool.